Is that mandatory?
Well, I think we usually like to have all the body's members present so that that's what's visible and shown to the community via the YouTube live stream. Otherwise, it's just black boxes that are talking.
I have kids that are going to run in and out, so I'm going to turn the camera off because I don't want them in the video.
Sure, we understand when that happens.
If I'm speaking or something, you'd like me to turn on the video?
Yeah, particularly when you're speaking. Then if there's an issue why we can't maintain it the whole time, then at least when you're speaking, please do have the video on. Thank you. Okay, why don't we go ahead, Ruth? We can begin.
Okay, I'm just going to welcome. We're still expecting a couple people, but glad to have you guys here. I'm just going to, we had this added, you've seen it on your agenda, but I do want the public to be aware that due to the COVID guidelines, we are going to be continuing to hold our meetings online until further notice. The public is able to watch this meeting online via YouTube, and minutes of the meeting will be transcribed and posted to the planning department's website. So that's where we're going to be until things change. Just quick reminders about our Aloha etiquette, particularly on Zoom, that one person speaks at a time, and mute your device unless you are speaking. If you'll raise your hand, not virtually, but physically, because only the host can see that. And then just remember to speak slowly and clearly so that everyone we can capture what you got. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 5:13, and we'll do our roll call. So Julia Alice. We got Julia here. Karen is here. Pete is here. Tristy is here. Kevin is here. I am here. We're expecting Bill. Mark Jordan is excused. And we also have with us Rob and Alexis. And now I can't see her name, so I've forgotten it.
April Surprenant.
April, yeah, April is joining, and Rob will explain that to you in just a few minutes as to what's going on there. So the agenda you have before us, there's not any proposed changes. So just making sure everyone's good with what we're getting ready to go over. And I'm going to turn this next section for the announcements over to Rob. Keiko is not with us, and Rob will explain with you what's going on.
Also, Chair Smith, just to let you know, Bill has joined us, so we can take him in officially as part of the roll count.
Perfect. Thank you.
So welcome, Bill. Great. So we have a few announcements to note. The one that is listed officially on the agenda is related to the upcoming Action Committee meetings. If you all remember from the December All Island AC meetings, there was a proposal that for this year, each AC would meet quarterly, as well as we try to gather all the ACs in a similar All Island forum 2 times a year. So this is our second quarterly meeting for 2021. And the proposed dates going forward then are for August 12th to do another all AC meeting, September 13th and November 8th for the quarterly Action Committee meeting. I'm going to drop those dates into the chat just so you have that, in case you didn't catch it from what I spoke of. And so what will happen shortly, in the coming weeks, we'll be reaching out to discuss the agenda and the method of meeting for August 12th in the all AC meeting. Then, of course, we will do the routine organization for the quarterly meetings as we go forward. So that's just going to set that on our calendar because it's been sort of meeting by meeting for the last couple, but we wanted to set a more firm schedule for everybody. Any questions on that? No? Great. Two other announcements that we would like to give to you. One is around the status of the general plan, because that has come up from time to time. If you all recall, there was a draft 2019 general plan that went out to the public through a series of comment periods, where we were then aggregating and reviewing those comments to bring it to the point where we go out to the public with another version of that for a final round before it goes to the Planning Commission and County Council for adoption. With the advent and the change of administration, they are reviewing their components of the general plan, as well as considering them how to manage the public input and alternative strategies and opportunities to take the general plan forward. And so any further activities are awaiting that input from the new administration. So once that input is provided, then we will be able to come out with the next phases and timing for how that general plan review will be concluded. That will of course touch on some of the activities that would be done with the AC, but we can't give you any more concrete information on that work for the future until this next step of receiving the current administration's input on how they would like to see the general plan go forward. Okay, so that's just a brief update on that. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, this is Kevin. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Great. One of the things that I remember we were told some time ago now, a year or two ago, was that the overlap between the general plan and the community development plans was going to be sort of minimized, so that some things that were in the general plan would be moved into the CDPs and then therefore not be duplicated in the general plan, and remove some of the, I don't know, disagreements between them perhaps. Is that, I guess you don't know yet, but can you, when you do get the information, can you make sure that particular detail is clarified for all of us, so we know exactly what the role of the CDPs versus the general plan is going to be going forward, and then we can be, best prepared for how we need to give our input onto especially the CDP side of it.
Sure. No, absolutely. That reconciliation and alignment between the general plan and the CDPs is definitely one of the topics going into what is going to happen with the GP as it goes forward. And that will also then set the timing as to how both the GP and the CDPs then are updated. Yeah, and so you've linked it properly, and that kind of topic is of course on the agenda, but until the feedback is received, we shouldn't really say too much more about how we think it's going to go until that is understood fully. But it's a good point, Kevin, and yes, we will note that. Thank you. Any other questions on the GP update? Okay. One last then announcement from us is staffing changes. As you can probably see, there are new faces in this meeting. Within the long range division, which is where we all sit, we have realigned our activities to three main areas: infrastructure and design, community planning, which is the team then that engages with the CDPs and the action committees, being you guys as a key form in that area, and natural and cultural resources. So Kamu, who you have been working with for some time now, he's living out his passion now for natural and cultural resources. So he'll head up that part of the team and kind of drive that ambition forward. So he will not be directly working with the CDP and ACs any longer. But of course, always available to support this team as it goes forward. As for myself, I will join Natasha. Natasha, you met in the last meeting where she came to give you some updates. She is heading up infrastructure and design, and I will be joining her on that team. So that leaves Keiko Mercado, who was also in the March meeting. She is actually, I say that, but I'm not quite sure. I apologize. You may have met Keiko definitely at the All AC meeting, so you do know who she is. She will be heading up the community planning section along with Alexis. So we welcome Alexis, who has been a land use planner and greeting the public as they've come into the Kona office. And she has now transitioned into a planner role here in long range, and she will then work with Keiko to facilitate the communications and the logistics going forward for the future AC meetings and CDP activities. So that's sort of the general idea of what's happening in our transition. Unfortunately, Keiko did have a family emergency that came up just before this meeting, so she unfortunately could not join us. And so therefore I've been kind of taken over to help continue driving this meeting to its conclusion. But so she apologizes for not being here, but we of course will do our best to represent her as we go forward. So that's the staffing update on what's happening within long range and the team then that will be working with you going forward. To just say one last thing before I ask if there are questions, within community planning, I believe the idea is that there will be more team members supporting the ACs in general, because there have been a larger team in the past. There was Kamu, Eric, Keiko, and myself, and we need to rebuild the size, the capacity there to continue supporting the ACs. So there should be more members that are being onboarded, hopefully within the coming months. Good. Any questions on that?
What happened to Bethany?
Bethany remains in long range. So she's definitely a key person working along with April. April, who you see on the screen, she is our program manager. April also is sharing some leadership roles with April within the team and working on driving the general plan once we start to get that information back from the administration. So that'll be her focus. So you'll definitely be in touch with Bethany in future engagements, I'm sure. Good. Anything else?
Just be sure that Keiko knows that we are concerned about her family's well-being and hope everything goes well medically, and we miss her.
Absolutely. We will share that with her.
Thank you, April. Yeah, thank you. So
okay, so that's it for
move on to the If that's it, we'll move on to the public comment period. And Rob, I understand we have a comment. So I'm just going to remind you guys that this is our opportunity for the public to share. The comments will be, we're going to take them at the beginning, particularly because we're on Zoom as opposed to trying to do it while the agenda item is being discussed. But there will be a 3-minute limit to the comment section. And I'm going to let you go ahead and make the introductions, Rob.
Okay, thank you. We do have one member of the public, Jojo Tanamoto, who has signed up to give testimony. And I believe that might be you there, Jojo, with the iPhone OH53WU sign on. Could you please unmute?
I don't know if that's my number, but I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. So Jojo, for the start, can you introduce yourself by name and if you're representing yourself or an organization, and then if you can just say which agenda item you would like to speak to, and then you can proceed for your 3 minutes of public testimony. And when the 3 minutes is up, I'll just chime in to give you an indication that the time is up, and then if you can wrap up your comments.
Thank you.
And Jojo, if you can turn your picture on, it'd be great. We'd love to see you, dear.
We sure need your help. Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Jojo Tanamoto, and I come from Kauai High in the Kailapa subdivision, where Diane Fanieli lives. What I noticed on this document is that Kauai High is kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So I have a concern with that, with the issues that are listed in the matrix. The other thing is, I noticed that there is no representation from Kauai High to support the issues helping Kauai High. And so that's why I wanted to make this testimony to add to information and to see if we can get back some help. And the first one I wanted to go to is, I noticed that there is a acquire easements for pu'upassos. Now I know Waimea has been working on those, and Kauai High has ours also, and they have a historic sentiment to it, and so it's important that Kauai High pu'u also get included. The other thing I noticed is in the document, the Kauai High section does not include that our water for Kailapa in the Hawaiian Home subdivision is not listed as Kohala Ranch water because it's in the North Kohala region. But we are serviced by Kohala Ranch. The other thing is, and I think that would be important because we're looking for water at Kauai High to expand. The other thing I noticed is our fire station, the volunteer fire station, is also in North Kohala. And there is no documentation in the document or anywhere that says that we have a fire volunteer service. And hopefully they can reach us. The other one I noticed is the historic portion. Oh yeah, you know, we're really important on that one. And we would like some help in trying to get that mo'olelo documented. And the other thing is I've heard that we have goats out here in Kauai High, and I guess you got goats all over the place now, but there should be something that the county can do about these goats. They're awfully dangerous. Hawaiian Homes has a program, but everything else from Kauai High to Waimea to Waikoloa is all goats. And you hit them in the dark or you just miss them and your car gets scraped. I think the county should help figure out something with educating the landowners about agriculture and ranch and forestry and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is the watershed. The watershed is recognized in the Waimea area, but Kauai High is kind of like left out of the picture. And I'd like to get that included with this matrix so that, you know, our issues are also addressed. And actually, we've got a lot of stuff that Kauai High is not listed in the matrix. And one of the things that I would like to see is to identify the sites. And actually, we have some streams that start in the north and come down in Kauai High. They end up, though, in North Kohala. And so we share that resource, but it's not documented anywhere. So we want to make sure we get our water from that as well. And we like the events, celebrating the events, but Kauai High is not recognized for our canoe club. We used to be once upon a time before this last general plan, and then got wiped out. We have the hula events, we have the kupuna events, and they're not even mentioned in this matrix. So there's a lot of things that Kauai High seems to be left out, and we would like to see it included in the matrix.
Jojo, your time is up. If you could please wrap up your comments. Thank you.
Great, because I'm at the end right now. Thanks, Robert.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, so that is what I'd like for the CDP members to consider and the planning department, that there's a lot of things in this matrix that leave Kauai High out. And I'd like to see us included in that matrix. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Mahalo,
Jojo. Appreciate that. And just to clarify, because I just was talking to Tristy before we started. Tristy does live on the Kauai High grade. So she is in the Kauai High area. She's not down in Hawaiian Homelands, but so to see her right there on the screen. And I clarified that with her because I wanted to be sure. And as I mentioned to Tristy, I used to live in Kauai High Village. So we don't want to leave Kauai High out. Thank you so much for checking in.
Thank you. I noticed you got an empty spot for membership. I'm available.
Yeah, we're not, the county has got a couple of CDPs, a couple of action committees that are so short on membership that they don't have quorum, so they can't meet. So the mayor is moving to fill those vacancies first. And then the vacancy that we have that actually was created by Diane leaving is the one that we will be filling it's everything on a priority basis. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So we're going to go ahead and move ahead to the approval of the minutes of March 11th that we had this year, 2021. Can I have a motion to discuss that? Or to approve, and then we'll discuss? Okay, Pete makes a motion. Is there a second? Bill seconds. Okay, so now, is there any discussion on the minutes from that meeting that you will have received? Julia? You need to unmute there.
I know. Thank you. I brought up the question with Rob prior to the meeting starting in the chat box, and I was asking the typed items that are in the chat box, where do they fall in line with respect to the minutes, or are they getting read by the chair or the vice chair? Because they weren't at the last meeting, and I don't know if we need to, if we require a motion for that, but we can, I just want to bring that up.
Yeah, I think what Julia is commenting on is that during this meeting, we have some chats that are happening, right? And I think we might have spoken to what was happening in the chats, and hopefully then if that happened, it got into the minutes. But if there was a chat that happened only, or a conversation that happened only in the chat, then we should go back to our Zoom recording and look for that, and then update the minutes with that to make sure that that is captured. So I think Julia is highlighting that there is something that she understands is missing. And so therefore it might be then a step for us to review that and come back with a revised version of the minutes.
Yes, we need to do that because it was addressed when we were taking a vote, and I put something in the chat and it never got addressed when we were voting for the officials on this committee. So it should have been addressed. Thank you.
That's a good catch, Julia. And that is one of my problems with using chat, is where people's attention is focused. But it's particularly when information is given that then disappears. We need to be able to capture that for sure. Okay, so is there any further discussion? Bill? You need to unmute, buddy. Bill?
Hey, there we go. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I would make a motion to defer this until we investigate that, because this seems to be something we better make sure that we have a plan going forward in meetings so that we don't get jammed up. So I'd make a motion to defer until we correct it.
Are you making a motion to defer the approval of the minutes?
Yes.
Is that what you're making?
Yes.
You're making a motion to defer the approval of the minutes and until reviewed in context,
reviewed.
in context of the chat?
Yes.
Okay, I just need to now ask Rob or whoever knows. So is that chat captured?
It should be in the Zoom recording. So we're doing two simultaneous recordings, the Zoom recording and on YouTube. So my understanding is that the Zoom recording does capture that chat. So we'll have to look for that and then review it and make an update.
Okay, so Bill, you want to restate? So you're actually making an amendment to the motion to approve the meeting minutes, and you want to postpone that until we've reviewed the chat.
I'm making a motion that we defer approval until it has been reviewed from the chat, and that we make sure that this is something that happens every time we have recordings, that we check all three. And at that time, we could then take up the approval.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'm seconding. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of deferring the approval of the March minutes, please raise your hand. can't see some of you guys. Okay,
They're
very
on.
good. Thank
Good.
you. And sorry, just for clarification, is Jojo now on, she's on the live stream now?
Yeah,
'Cause we're still seeing-
no, I think I still see Jojo connected. So Jojo, we still see you connected to the Zoom meeting. We ask that you sign out of this meeting and then continue to observe it from the YouTube link that was sent the communication to you today.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, mahalo.
Thank you. Okay, so moving along to the actual business at hand, the action areas for the 22-23 CDP implementation. And Rob, I believe I'm handing that over to you.
Yes, correct. Yes. So yes, this action areas for 2021 and 22 CDP implementation activity that we were planning to do is a continuation of what was first introduced in the December all AC meeting, where the idea, of course, if you recall, at the first step that we took was to gather from all of you AC members the community organizations that you were involved with and the potential projects that they were working on that were of interest to you. Then the next step was to say, can we map those community groups and projects to potential community-based actions that are implementable, that we can then see an advantage for creating synergy out of what is being done across different AC members and utilizing the potential resources and efforts that are being done by these community groups. And so we try to get this message out verbally during these meetings, and we've also put out different requests with some illustrations of what we're looking at, and we realized that this wasn't succeeding in the way that we would like. So we wanted to take the opportunity during today's meeting to revisit this and see what can we do to achieve this in a way that will be useful for you guys as an action committee. The basic idea here is what we're trying to get to is what kind of community actions are you involved with today? Where do we then see that different AC members are working in similar areas or are very much on the specific same topic, so that you can do some informal collaboration to forward those actual implementation actions? Or if it's something that is a little bit more substantive and requires an investigatory subcommittee, you can form that and then continue on that kind of work as has been done before. But the basic idea here is to say, how can we connect you guys as AC members on areas of interest or areas of implementation that you're currently doing, so that you guys can work together to truly perform community-based implementation of things that are of importance to the CDP. So the idea originally was we're going to go through, this list that Jojo was speaking to, which was, the potential kinds of actions that come out of the CDP itself, as well as some suggestions that were derived out of the Hamakua and Ka'u CDPs, which very explicitly set a list of very typical community actions that could be done and be of interest across the island. But we know that exercise in detail does take a lot of time. So in preparation for today's meeting, working with Chair Smith, we came up with maybe a little simplified way to see if we can have a conversation with you to determine where can these alliances or collaborations be done amongst you as AC members. So I'll share my screen and present what the idea is from a simplified way of handling this. So does everybody see my Word document? The basic idea here is just to kind of go through, across the different AC members and just ask, what kind of activities are you working on with your organizations? And see, then try to capture just maybe the top 2 or 3 that you are doing that are importance to you or active now, and then see if we can find those connections between the different AC members and say, okay, you guys might want to then go off and try to work to collaborate together on doing something specific, or determine maybe you need a investigatory subcommittee. So I believe this is accurate, Ruth, as to how we decided we might try to take this exercise. Maybe you can correct me if you believe this doesn't explain what we agreed to.
Yeah, I'd only make one. Thank you for letting me give input. This is the first time I'm seeing this. So the only change I would make is on the column that says possible link to the CDP. I want the word possible just taken out. I want if we're talking about an activity and an organization, I want to be sure that it links to something we're doing, because people are involved in a lot of different things. So I want to be sure that there's a link in there to our overall picture.
Sure.
Okay.
But
thank you for doing that. This I think will be more productive than going through that other
matrix.
Really extensive list.
No, exactly. And I highlighted the link to the CDP column in red to say, I don't want to focus on that today, meaning we don't need to capture the exact reference or the policy or action, whatever it is, but know that we need to be thinking in those terms ultimately so we can make that connection. What I really want to focus on here is saying, what types of activities and organizations are you working on, and where do we then see the connections between the different members? So my proposal is, maybe we just go through each member and just see if we can pull out one such type of activity in the organization, and then see if that's, going to succeed as an approach in trying to get this conversation going. So that's the proposal. And maybe before we take that step of going member by member, maybe it would be good to get some reflection from the different members. Does this make sense? Do you have any questions about it? And how do we see then this being a useful direction to go?
How are you guys with this?
I'm going to jump in because I think it's an excellent idea. You can see that Pete already submitted some information. If that's the kind of items that you're looking for, just to give topics, then I'm all for it. I mean, let's put it this way: we can always improve the system, but why don't we start somewhere?
Do you want to start?
Certainly, I'll start. One of the things that we've been working on is a continuation of the Trails and Greenway, which is starting to be more active. It's been dormant in Waimea for a long time, but now it's actually coming alive so that there could actually be some action plans and infrastructure improvements there. And to dovetail with it, there is actually an alignment of a Jeep trail from where the Trails and Greenway would end at Church Row, and that alignment of the Jeep trail goes almost to Hawaiian Homelands Hall on the green side, and really would make a connection with Mana Road. So that alignment is technically a county road in limbo, but it's there. And Pete, myself, Kamu, Mike Donahoe, and who else, Pete? I can't remember. Actually walked it, and this alignment has, for the most part, fencing on both sides of it as it weaves its way through private property. And we would like to try to come up with an entity that could be community-wise, that could move this ahead to a reality where it could be a walking trail, horse trail, dog trail, whatever. In other words, restore it to the youth. One of the other things that it does have is a spur off of it that goes into the forest reserve. So we're looking at trying to get a group in the community who would be willing to work with that, work with Waimea Preservation Association, maybe Ala Kahakai in some way, shape, or form, because they've looked at it, and even Hawaiian Homeland.
Okay. And so, Bill, just to clarify, this is not an activity that you are currently engaged with, but is one of the things that you believe will be a potential activity to do. Is that right?
No, we're actually engaged in it through
okay.
Waimea Preservation Association.
Okay, good.
And it is on the horizon with between Pete and myself with a community group that we have met once and probably will meet again on community things in the month of July.
Okay. Good.
I want to just, because Bill and I had talked about this, and I just want to, this is the page from the CDP on the Waimea plan. And if I'm correct, this is the Kohala Mountain Road, and down here is the Waikolo Road. So you're talking about this area of Waimea over here? Because it says we have walkways and bikeways as part of the CDP that goes with that. I'd just say maybe you guys want to reference it's page 65 in the CDP. And so it's something that's, I believe this was one of the things that we originally had as a suggestion in addition to a number of other things that already have happened.
And maybe the better way to do it is Kamu had sent out some links to GPS that we had used and maps. So maybe what I'll do is forward that to you, and then Ruth, you can decide, how we add that in there or we didn't add it.
Okay. No, I think that's a terrific example. Thank you, Bill, for that. This is exactly what we're looking for. What kind of activity are you currently engaged in? Maybe to continue the discussion, we can either go directly to another person, or we can say, does anybody else work on an activity that is quite similar in nature about preserving, establishing, or managing a particular trail in the area? And maybe that way we can make an immediate connection to what somebody else is working on.
Right.
Bill, did you find anything that linked that down to some of the things that in Puko? Was there some link that you had there? Because I know one of them talked
about. Well, the current Waimea Trails and Greenway ends down by South Kohala View Estates with a county parcel that was dedicated for putting in changing over to indigenous right on the stream. But pretty much if you did some historical stuff, you would find that the trail that came from Waimea that was going down to Kauai High would have followed the stream. So it's just that it's different property. Some of it is Parker Ranch, some of it is state land, and it has, that section of it hasn't been thoroughly looked at. But bottom line is the idea was to link it all the way down to the ocean, so that you could go from the ocean all the way around Mauna Kea.
Okay. Well, I think we have not heard anyone chime in to say that they have a particular project that they're working on today that is directly related. So, Ruth, are you going to say something, Ruth?
No, I think you're right. I think we ought to move on. I was wondering, I don't want to put you on the spot, Karen, but I was wondering if you could, when I was looking back at the old plan, I had some questions. I mean, is the Puko Community Association still active and viable? Karen?
Great, sorry, there I am. Yeah, so in fact, I'm having a meeting in my house in about 10 minutes. I double booked myself. So they're all about to come. Even Robbie Robertson's on his way. But anyway, yes, I'm active. What I was trying to comment, one of the things we are working on is the King's Trail that's going through the community right now. So it's not going to connect to the Waimea Trail, but that is happening. And our other big thing is wastewater.
Yes.
And the county now has $1.8 million that the state has given to investigate the wastewater at Puko. So that really is where our community is focused right now, is on wastewater, as well as helping everyone who else is working on the King's Trail. Yeah, and the PCA meets every month. Pardon me?
Who are your partners on the King's Trail?
So the church, the Hokaloa Church, is one of the ones really leading it up here in Puko. And I'm going to step to another room because my dog is barking. So hold on 1 minute. Okay, hold on 1 second. Can I come back on in 1 second? All of a sudden, my house went crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe while she's out, we can go to another member. Tristy, would you?
I want to be sure, and because her times can be really limited. So when she can come back, I want us to go right back to her.
Okay. And we just have to watch to make sure we maintain quorum.
Right.
Yeah.
I just am wondering if is that the money that was allocated to do this study by the legislature some time ago and it got transferred to the county? Does anybody know? Oh,
Hi, I'm back. I'm really sorry about that. I'm really, really sorry. Kids came home, dog started barking. So this was the money that was dedicated by the legislature a year and a half ago.
2019.
No, yes, 19, yes.
Yeah.
So they just received it right as the new administration is taking over. So in fact, what we're meeting on tonight is getting an update on that money. And it's really being used to for the state to study the most viable solution. We've given them as a community several different options. The county has said that they want to run the waste treatment. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Very good to hear that that's happening.
Yes. And there was some slowdown with the use of the money, basically because of COVID and then the new administration. But again, I'll be able to actually type up notes from what I find out tonight, but everyone is still very much moving forward with it.
Great. Give our best to Puko.
I will.
Great. Well, terrific, Karen. You covered topics 1 and 2 of the agenda. Thank you. Well done. Okay. All right. Then maybe let's go to Tristy. Do you have something you'd like to put on here as a current activity that you think would be of interest to the CDP implementation?
I'm not really familiar with parts of the CDP because we're trying to kind of monitor it. I do represent the ILWU organization. We do have members. Actually, I am currently employed by Mauna Kea Beach Hotel. In the tourism industry, we kind of oversee the issues on the impacts, whether it's roads, infrastructure. We did discuss the Waiaka Bridge situation that was happening, the traffic through Waimea for the workers, and the impacts going through the communities. Other than that, the only other activity I do is I sit on the, the District 7-4 for the Hawaii County Democratic Party. I'm in contact with Colleen Kelly for my district. and also the Waimea Community Association.
Mhm.
When I'm available to attend. I used to be a member of it, but I haven't restarted again, since COVID happened. But I do receive the communications.
Okay, terrific. Okay.
Can I just ask Trissy a quick question?
Sure.
So Trissy, do you have a idea percentage wise of your workers that do the long commute? I mean, do you have any idea how many people are affected by, are you talking about just Waimea? Are you talking all the way to the other side?
Both. In actuality, we do oversee most hotel properties, which include Mauna Kea, Hapuna, Hilton, Manalani, Fairmont. Those are ILW properties. We also have the regular general trades industry, like Foodland Farms, are members as well. And in Waimea, most of the travel concern was kind of addressed through the HTA because Craig Anderson, who's the general manager of Mauna Kea, sits on that for the Hawaii island, I believe. And there's about 2/3 that commute from other places other than Kohala Coast. That commutes more than 15 to 20 miles one way to work. We were kind of with the, I was in participation when Keiko guys did the Waikoloa Village. We had a meeting in the rec room on the side to discuss the Department of Transportation or the commute, how that would impact that on the Hawaii mass transit situation. But that kind of died down for a little bit, and that kind of went to nowhere, I believe, because of the overturn in the Department of Transportation. But I believe at one point we, as CDP members, we went to one of those public hearings. I believe there was like 2 that occurred at Waikoloa Village about the discussion for the, the commute and the Department of Transportation level. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Maybe Ruth, I suggest we go to Kevin next.
Great.
Kevin, are you there? Yep, he's unmuting.
I don't have something to add at this time.
Okay.
Just came off of the board at the Waikoloa Village Association, and I got pulled into continuing to work on updating the Declaration of Protective Covenants for the association. So that's going to keep me busy for a little bit. I'm happy to get involved in assisting with something else, but I'm probably not going to start a new thing on my own just yet. Maybe once the kids' school year starts, I might be looking for something more on my own. But until then, I'm going to focus on getting this association thing done that I committed to do. But I would have a little bit of time available to help out some other folks with something that is relevant to this local area. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Let's move on to Julia.
Yes.
Aloha. I've been really busy here. We met with Mayor Roth and Deputy Managing Commander Bobby Command with Tim Richards and Dave Tarnas, and we had gone through a huge list of short and long-term priorities. Most all of them were based off of our CDP book, and so I can report back. We're going to have probably Zendo and Ikaika attending some of the meetings to address some of our issues. They ranged from the intersection to the second access road to schools to fixing our parks up and just a whole lot of different things. So and that was the organization is through Waikoloa Community Leadership Council, and Mark Gordon's name isn't on here, but he will work with me likely on that. So it's just a whole laundry list. It was a bunch of things that we gave him. So we're getting updates, and I'll share them as they become available.
Rob, if it's okay, I'd like to jump in here on
Sure.
in terms of Waikoloa, especially those of you that don't travel the Waikoloa Road may not be aware of just quite how much is going on along that road. But the Waikoloa Plaza is well underway, slowed down as everything was by parts and things for the by COVID. A second major thing that is coming in. So if you're on the Makai side of Waikoloa, the intersection, you're going to see the plaza, and if you're on the Mauka side, you're going to see the renewable energy project, piles and piles of building materials for the renewable energy project that's going in on land that's being leased from the Waikoloa Village Association. So if it were not for COVID, probably the plaza would be open now. The urgency for action at that intersection increases. Yeah, even just with the construction of these two projects, and certainly when the plaza opens, it's going to definitely impact us. And there's just anything and everything that we can do to get that something taken care of. I mean, Julia had mentioned in the last meeting, just putting up another stop sign if we can't figure anything else out. And that's probably one of the more, it's not necessarily a great solution because people already can't even figure out what to do with that intersection right now, especially tourists. But, you know, the concern had always been about slowing it down, but I just would like to say that from the village's point of view, that is so important that we not wait till one of the overriding tenets in the entire CDP was that we have infrastructure concurrent with development, not development preceded by infrastructure, or that preceded infrastructure. And then we got the jam up and then we had to react. So.
Looks like Bill has his hand up.
I can't see it, but go for it, Bill.
I think the important thing is the increase in pedestrian traffic, because they're trying to get from one side of the highway to the other side of the highway. So maybe the similarity would be people worrying about the safety of that down there, to maybe a second wave of talking about how they're going to solve the intersection problem. It's pedestrian.
Kevin, do you want? Yeah, Kevin, do you want to speak to that at all from what the report you did regarding the intersection, the pedestrians?
I think pedestrians a big concern. I guess I'm concerned, as I think other folks are, that in a design review from folks that doesn't involve folks that live here or in the area, that they're going to vastly underestimate the amount of pedestrian traffic that's going across the road, right? Even already when you're going through, you regularly see people walking to the post office, right? That's just the post office. So I have a big concern about that, actually. So I don't know what else you'd like me to get into detail, but definitely concerned about the pedestrian evaluation for that intersection.
I'd just like to add that at this time, the mayor is hopefully going to be speaking with Director Rodenhurst and may take a second look at the Bell Collins contract that was actually submitted for the design for a roundabout, before there was really any conclusions, because we've been all asking for updated information on it since they're working off a 2006 ordinance. So, and the pedestrian is a big, huge thing. Mr. Richards had said that they were going to have a overpass with elevators on both sides of the road. And I kind of don't think that's going to work too well, especially if TMT goes through or just whatever, because there's no other way around the island that this kind of equipment is going to be able to go. So there's a lot of, it was an almost 2-hour meeting we had. So there was a lot of that discussion going on the intersection. So hopefully the mayor will put a halt to it. To review.
Well, and what I'm also recalling from that particular report too was the concern that the Americans for Disabilities had with roundabouts for people with visual impairments, especially people who are blind, but even people just with visual impairments. And I think Kevin's point about the increase, and if, you know, we get through the hurdles on the library and kids are going to the library, it's just, that little intersection is just, it needs real urgent attention.
Yes, roundabouts are pretty much vehicle friendly, but not too pedestrian friendly from all the research I've done. So I'm right behind that.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we should give Pete also a chance to speak. Now, Pete, I did make a notation of what you provided as feedback, but I did not list it up above at the moment because I was unclear if they were actual activities or these were just things that you were saying, hey, these are, you know, maybe priority items to consider. So maybe if you want to comment on that.
Sure, thanks, Rob. We have been involved with Manukioli Park for years and years. It was originally created almost 30 years ago, and a community project with the U.S. Army from Kohala, and it eventually just went to seed. And so we had a community action last 6-7 years to rehab the place, and we have 2 really nice playing fields now used by soccer kids. And as you probably know, the Rotary Club built a really nice pavilion for its 100th anniversary. Gosh, that was almost 10 years ago, I think. And just until the last few weeks, we had twice a week grab and go meals given out for more than 200 people at a time, 200 families at a time. And that just wrapped up. So my comment on maintaining that space as an open space is in some danger, because the property was given a 99-year lease, and the YMCA is supposed to be the caretaker, or rather the steward. And when they had financial troubles, they sold Kohala Hall, which was key to using that whole area. And so we're actively working with private and public agencies and community to maintain that space as kind of the real center of town and an open space for the public. So that's ongoing.
Thank you. It's a good example of what we're talking about here. So noted. Just before I move on, the third one was kind of general, but this one here, is that something that's sort of aligned to what Bill was saying about the other deep trail that he mentioned? Is that sort of a parallel activity?
Completely separate.
Okay.
The original master plan, or rather general plan with the county, in conjunction with the Parker Ranch 2020 plan, extended Ala Ohia Road from where it is now at Pukalani Stables to Kamamalu, which would have provided a connector road for town. It would allow people out on Kuhio Village, Hawaiian Homes, and all the homestead farms on the Mauna Kea side of Mamalahoa to get around town if they had to and not have to go through the main intersection. And there's a process now to think about an alternate, which is an entrance which would end up on the curve, the current emergency entrance to the hospital. And it would actually require another signalized intersection, which would be a disaster. So we're kind of a fly in the ointment, trying to maintain the original approved plan. And that's something that's just an ongoing community action.
Okay, thank you for that. And Chair Smith, just to let you know, Council Member Tim Richards has joined us. Welcome.
Welcome, Tim. Thank you
Welcome,
for coming. I think we have been through the committee members, if I'm seeing correctly here. So Tim, we've just been going through our various areas and talking about things that people are working on. It came up, Julia mentioned that there was a meeting that you all had, you and David and the mayor and his deputy all had together. And that was very Waikoloa based. But we've talked about a few other things here. I just wondered if there's anything that you'd like to share with us.
Sorry, late to the meeting, Ruth. I apologize on that. In this day and age with numerous Zoom meetings, I lost track of this one, so I apologize. Concerning the, just running through this list real quick here. Probably the most pressing one was the one with the Waikoloa and the Waikoloa intersection. There seems to be a lot of misperception and unknown things concerning the Waikoloa intersection. And I have met numerous times with that. The good news is we have the funding to take care of it. But as far as the exact plan coming forth, I know that there has been a lot of conversation about that. So this is not a done deal as far as that is in my mind. There's still a lot of things on the table to discuss on that. So again, we're not done with that, other than the fact that we do have the funding to take care of it. I'm just running through this list real quick.
Well, you may want to, it doesn't say too much about what Karen Anderson shared, but she actually left the meeting. She's our new representative from the Puko area.
Mm-hmm.
And she was actually getting ready to have a meeting with the Puko Community Association, and their water waste issue is what they are focusing on. And that's, I guess the money is transferred over from the legislature to the county to do that.
That's to do the study, and that did come from the legislature. Both Dave Tarnas and Senator Lorraine worked on getting that done. One of the issues with that, and I can speak to that, is with the Supreme Court decision concerning injection wells on Maui, that changes probably how we're going to deal with Puko. But on a grander scale, we have a wastewater problem throughout the county as a whole, meaning we don't really have a good plan for it, and we don't have the funding to get it done. However, in my mind, Puko is a kind of a poster child on how we might be able to go forward with, sorry, I got bad allergies, how we might be able to go forward and start planning for the future. We have the rising shoreline. We have a wastewater need to be dealt with in the greater Puko area. And we have things that are, right at sea level. So we know that the septic systems really don't work. So we really have to do a wastewater plan of some sort. The question is, what is the scope of that, and how are we going to pay for that? But the planning money is there to start trying to figure out what we're going to do. In my mind, and I've said this before, it makes the most sense to see if we can find some synergy with Maunalani and see if they're going to upgrade their system, or they maybe have to upgrade their system if we can tie those together. But again, that's still some time off, and that will come with more planning and discussions with Maunalani.
Anyone have questions for our distinguished councilman? Okay, Bill, do you want to just say what you wrote in the chat?
Tim, I didn't realize you were going to be here, or else I would have prepared a whole list of questions.
Well, you know what? I am very happy to be here and have these conversations. Just like I said, unfortunately, we have so many of these type of calls get inundated, and I was actually working on something else when I was pinged on this. So I apologize for my tardiness, but next time I will definitely show up on time. So fire away, whatever you got.
Like I said, I didn't prepare this time, but I will be ready next time. And it's good to see you, even if you're, I was late myself. The kids running around the background too. So thank you for joining.
I know that feeling. I got the twins out of the house right now.
Lucky.
Hey, Ruth
Yeah, Bill.
and Jim, the comment I was making that Pete had done on the extension of Ala Ohia alignment to the original direction over to Kamamalu, the most important thing that I see is because of an emergency alternative between east and west. And I realize that there's cultural things in the way there. There's a senior center there. There's upgrades to Kamamalu and a bunch of issues that would have to happen. I think the real issue is who's going to build the road wherever it goes. And that's probably why they're taking an easier alternate to go past the hospital, which already has 2 accesses, and make another intersection on Mamalahoa. It still doesn't solve the emergency bypass that we need. And it also doesn't do anything to take traffic off of Mamalahoa from the east side with all of the neighborhoods that's building up in Hawaiian homelands and some of the subdivisions that are going in along the road there now. And so I just wanted to make sure that we made that connection. It isn't just a connector road connecting. It's connecting it to something that actually helps the circulation for one way.
You know, we're talking about the bypass road, and I'm not sure what people are aware of. I'm seeing some different names on here, just so we catch people up a little bit on that. They started talking about the bypass road around Waimea when I was in either 4th or 5th grade. And I remember it very, very well. If you go out to Lakelands, you can see the corridor of land that was set aside for that bypass road. Okay, fast forward 55 years, and we haven't gotten the road built yet, but we keep talking about it. This administration, what I mean, the gubernatorial administration, said they were not going to be building any more capacity on any of the roadways. They're only going to be improving safety. And so any bypass road during this administration wasn't going to happen, because that was something that was stated very early on in the administration. The safety improvements, and I think that's in part what you're talking about, is potentially putting another route sort of kind of around Waimea to help with some of the safety concerns that you're highlighting. If you recall, originally what was supposed to happen, the Ala Ohia road was supposed to continue on through the Lalamilo farm lots. And that was supposed to go down and tie into lower Kawaihae Road, someplace there. But the food safety, the federal food safety, FSMA, disallows that, because you can't have a highway close to row crop farms. So that changed that routing of that road, because if the road was built there, then the farms would have to shut down. So that's why the road is now tentatively slated to go more out by the airport and kind of swing around Lalamilo farm lots. But again, we're not building any capacity. You know, I hear you. We've got to somehow figure out how to move the capacity and get it out of the Waimea crunch. But again, we're not building any capacity right now because that is not the direction of this administration. I don't disagree with you. Like I said, we've been waiting for it for 50 years. But we're not going to see that. To help with some of the capacity, we're supposed to build the next portion of the Daniel K Highway, and that was slated to go, except it was supposed to be funded in part by some of the GE tax collections from the rent-a-car revenue that comes into the state. But we all know what happened to that for the last year and a half. So that's why that was put on hold. That is still very high up on the list. But if that happens, then theoretically and hopefully we may be able to take care of some capacity. But the biggest problem is the bottleneck going through Waimea. And I don't know if that confused people more or got a little explanation for people that were a little unclear. The long and the short of it is this administration is not building any capacity as far as highways.
Tim, the portion we were talking about is an extremely short stretch from Pukalani Stables to Kamamalu. And that would alleviate a lot of problems. And that could be done very easily because that was a requirement by the county that Parker Ranch complete that before it completed its subdivision process. And somehow that got put aside.
I'm pretty sure Amy is on this call right now, my staff. Well, I'm not seeing her. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll go back and look at that, Pete, and see if we can see what happened to that requirement.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Tim. And we do have some documentation from 2008 from County Council in this process. So
if you could help me and send that to my office, so send that to my email at the county office, then we can start digging through. Part of that, when we're going for the Waikoloa intersection, there was a 2007 ordinance. I think that they made some decisions for that intersection based upon an ordinance that we knew nothing about. And so if you have any of that documentation, let us know.
Okay, thank you very much. Bill and I will get together and send that to you.
Excellent, thank you.
So, okay, so speaking of, I'd like to circle back around again a minute to Waikoloa. I don't know if you, I don't want to beat the dead horse here, but there was a part of the general plan in 2005, the last one that we have, said that we needed a stoplight at the intersection at Waikoloa. That's a few years ago now, 16 years ago. I know you got 55, so you got ranked there, but still. And I will tell you that in general, from the part of that conversation that you missed before you came in was just the pressing concern about pedestrians at that intersection. And there's just tremendous concern about a roundabout with kids walking across the street to the library that we will eventually get and to the new housing project that will go in. And so I think I don't think we've ever done a look at what pedestrian traffic is like there, but every member from Waikoloa who's present today has mentioned the foot travel as a real concern. So my concern is that they're going to come back with something that says we're going to build a roundabout. And I frankly think there's going to be a lot of pushback on that. So that's just.
And Ruth, we did that listening session about a year and a half ago now, and we had about 120, 130 people there. It was almost dead even, 50-50, roundabout versus light. And if you recall, what I said at that point was, this is a traffic engineer decision. I don't have the credentials to make that call. I know we have emotional beliefs of what we think should happen, but we do need to to let the people who have the credentials to do that weigh in on this. Now, that being said, from a traffic flow, I know in Pune that I think it was characterized as the most dangerous intersection in the state. When they put in their traffic circle, substantially improved, and it has increased flow substantially and decreased the accidents. I think they've eliminated the accidents almost. There is good credentials for a circle, but you bring up a point about the pedestrian traffic. What do we do about that? We're building the Waikoloa Plaza. That is an attraction of more people going there. What are we going to do about that? And so I raised the question, is a pedestrian overpass a possibility? Long story short, that it is, but it comes with a price tag of about $1 million because you have to make it ADA compliant. So the question is, what are we going to do about this? And I've pushed pretty hard against Public Works on trying to get this thing resolved because, again, I have repeatedly asked for when are we making a decision on this? Apparently it was made in right after the election, but before this administration took office. And I was never told it until we found out about that they were planning a traffic circle, whenever that was, 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago, whenever we found that out. And so I'm not happy with how that thing transpired. And I think there needs to be more conversation on that. So I'm with you as far as that goes, Ruth. Like I said, I kept being told no decision was made, no decision was made. And then I was told well, it was made based upon a 2007 or 2008 ordinance that was put forth that said traffic circle. And so that's what they hang their hat on as far as saying that decision was made 12, 13 years ago. I take a very jaded eye on that one. So we're not done having this conversation.
Yeah, and as I say, in the 2005 general plan, preceded by that was that they should put in a stoplight. So they can duel with battle with what's been said. I think right now it's just that the main thing is that we got some resources coming into Waikoloa. I can't believe I'm going to be able to buy more than a screw in Waikoloa in the village market. I'm thrilled, and but you know, if it weren't for the pandemic, that would be open now. So time is of the essence.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Anybody have anything else didn't mean to put you on the hot spot, Tim, but hey.
Hey, I signed up for this job. I'm good with it.
Okay.
Can I just follow up on that intersection point, Tim, for you real quick? So I've been doing some research that I can do that. And I found a few cases lately where some cities in the US had been considering whether to build a roundabout or a stoplight. And they ended up choosing to build a stoplight because the roundabout was going to be too expensive. One of the reasons that the roundabout was going to be expensive is because in the last couple of years since we've been doing all this research, some of the mechanisms for making roundabouts safe for elderly or disabled pedestrians and children have started to come together. And so they're adding a lot of requirements for the pedestrians only cross one lane at a time, and the size of the safety island in the middle between the lanes of traffic, and putting fences up along the parts of the intersection or roundabout where the pedestrians should not cross. And so the safety mechanisms for making it safe for pedestrians start to become very expensive. So your proposal for a pedestrian overpass probably isn't really much more expensive than actually building the proper safety mechanisms for pedestrians at the roundabout anyway, because we probably have to put in 3 pedestrian on-demand stoplights to allow a pedestrian to come up, with fencing to find it and find the ramp where they need to walk and to push the button and stop traffic anyway. And so you don't get away with having, no electricity and no controllers, because now you have to have pedestrian on-demand crosswalks with the stoplights anyway. So this is when I say I'm concerned about the pedestrian aspect of this intersection. I've actually, my view on it has matured, and I'm not as concerned whether it's a roundabout or a traffic light, as long as the pedestrian access and the proper accommodations for pedestrians are put in. And as that has matured nationwide about how to build roundabouts that are safe for pedestrians, the cost of the roundabouts has gone up and up and up and up, right? So this is the situation. So I'm happy to prepare you with all of the, I'm an engineer, right? So to prepare you with all the detailed information that you might need or want for any of the conversations you have on that topic. Feel free to just give me a call out of the blue, and I'll share some detailed information with you right before a meeting, so you can ask the right questions if you wish. Just volunteer to help make sure that we get a good design done in the end, so we get the right thing built.
And I really appreciate that, and I will contact you. When I put forth the funding for this, I overestimated, so we should have the funding there to put in the safety features. And these are rough numbers: traffic light, 2 million, traffic circle, 4 million. There's 5 million there. So we should have the funding to do whatever we need to do. But my first premise is I have been on this thing for the last 2 years requesting when we're going to make a decision. And then to be told, oh yeah, that was made 12 years ago, that doesn't fly real well with me. So like I said, we're not done having this conversation.
Here, here.
I even called the previous administration and just to say, hey, did you guys make this decision? So let's just suffice to say, conversation's not done yet.
Thank you for all your work, Kim.
Okay. Maybe to kind of get to a point of wrap up, Ruth, just so you know, I think I saw Julia pop in with her hand up. I don't know, Julia, if you want to make a final comment on this issue.
No, I'm all good. Tim pretty much addressed it. We'll probably be meeting next month with the mayor and Ikaika, and hopefully Zendo. We're gonna go full guns on this intersection and get this thing right.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Terrific. Thank you, Julia. Okay. So, in deference to time, what I would kind of summarize here, what we see are, I think, a couple of current activities that people are driving forward. I think we kind of see some persisting priorities for the community that have no immediate resolution, but we have, of course, a long history of what they entail. And we also have some then broader scope intentions of things that need to be looked into. I think the challenge now is, as AC members, what will you do with this list here as far as saying, okay, we will collaborate on this particular item, we'll set some initiative and some objectives of what we want to achieve in the coming rest of this year, let's say, or the next year, to move on some of these items. I think that's the challenge now, for all of you as AC members, having started a conversation about a scope of areas to look at, maybe taking into consideration some of the areas that need to be given more attention, such as Kawaii, as Jojo testified to today. How will you wrap this into a bit of a plan for yourselves? You might take informal connections and, Pete and Bill get together and say, let's push all these trails initiatives together and come up with a plan and come back to the AC and say, we're going to lay out these activities for the next few months for ourselves. Or we might have to have a bit more organization around this in future meetings. I'm not quite sure, how we can conclude on this, but I think that is the challenge that we have at hand. How do we see this moving forward?
Well, three things jump out. The work that's going on in Waikoloa, very specific to the intersection. The work on the trails and hikes and access and protections in Waimea. Work on the wastewater in Puko. And the only thing that we don't really have activity going on is the water supply issue in Kauai. And I'm saying of things that are, what is seems to be the most urgent. It does seem like we have activity going around the things that the communities are deeming most pressing at this time. But so we might want to think about how we how we generate some activity there. And also maybe we want to look at when we are allowed to recruit, that we really, Diane had such a background and such a involvement in everything on that. And so she's greatly missed because of both her knowledge and her passion about it. So, I'm going to move forward and just ask if there's any other updates that we need. I'm just going to mention two things quickly myself. I've talked to you guys and I actually found a document, but we're going to be working to get the minutes out sooner after the meeting, so they're fresher in our old minds, at least my old mind, if nobody else's old mind. And there's a lot going on with planning right now because they're meeting with us, and you have two other meetings, like I can't remember, Hamako and Puko, or
And Kona, yes, we were doing 3
Kona.
AC meetings in a week and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
So Alexis has hit the ground running. And then I have also just asked that we get provided with updated information on how to contact one another. So I think we need to move on then to talking about don't know if we want, I don't know how much we want to talk about the agenda for the next meeting, other than just the standard things that we have. Maybe we definitely we're going to want to have an update session, I think, for the things that we've talked about today. And then there may be some things that come from our collective meetings that we want to put on our agenda too. So does anybody know of anything else that we know right now we need to put on the agenda for our September meeting? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to going once, going twice to adjourn? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so Pete seconded. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Give a shaka. Nice to see you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your work at the planning, you guys. Alexis, welcome on board.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you, mahalo.
Thank you.
All right, aloha.
Thank you.